What happens when I go to a boot sale in search of some retro goodies? Find out in the very first boot sale pickups. Last weekend I made a visit to the Hook Road car boot sale in Epsom in the hope of picking up some retro games for a very decent price. As for whether they were decent purchases, I'll leave that up to you. But what did I pick up? First up is the often forgotten Game Boy title Metroid 2 Return of Samus. This sequel to the NES hit expanded on the claustrophobic exploration of the original, albeit on a much smaller screen. It's not the easiest game to play thanks to the large sprites, quite a common issue with early Game Boy titles. Still, this is a game that is well worth checking out, especially as canonically an event occurs that is referred to in several other Metroid games since then. It's one of those games that is far more palatable on either a Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance and especially on a GameCube Game Boy player, as this is one of those handful of Game Boy games that actually has a special colour palette when played on any of those devices mentioned. As you can see, sprites are coloured very differently to the background and environment, which makes a lot of difference to gameplay. I picked up an unboxed cartridge in its plastic clamshell case for a mere £4. At the time of writing, the cheapest buy it now price is £7.99 without the plastic clamshell case. That is a saving of £3.99. Next up is a game of questionable quality, and that game is Jurassic Park The Lost World on the PlayStation. This 1997 release is a side-scrolling linear platformer with 2.5D visuals, and it practically has barely anything to do with the movie. The FMV cutscenes that begin each chapter are boring computer screens full of meaningless data, and the gameplay itself is Jurassic, with awful controls and frustrating difficulty even on easy. Still, at £1 for a copy with manual and a cracked box, it was a bargain for the hour or two of entertainment it gave me and my wife. Especially as copies of a similar condition are hitting eBay at a buy it now price of £5.95. With £4.95 saved, I could probably buy the actual movie on Blu-ray and have a better time. Finally, we come to my most exciting pickup, a clean copy of one of my favourite games of the last generation, Platinum Games Vanquish for Xbox 360. This is a fast and frantic cover-based shooter that combines extremely tight combat mechanics with the insanity that you'd expect from the developers of Bayonetta and the mind behind Resident Evil. It's challenging without being unfair, and while the narrative is a very silly tale of America versus space Russians, it's a highly enjoyable game throughout. I've been trying to find a copy of this for the right price for a while, and at £2 I couldn't pass up this bargain. I'd be paying £4.48 for a retail version of this game, so I did very well. So, I spent a total of £7 for a haul of games that I'd otherwise be paying a whopping £18.43 for. That's two great games and a hilariously bad one for a very low cost. Thank you very much for watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe to Pughoof Gaming for more videos and make your voice heard in the comments below. Goodbye.